Hey everyone, I'm Jen. This is Amy. We are the Hoods of Hoodzpah, and today we're so excited to be hanging out with you. Say hi in the chat, say where you're from, tell us what your favorite movies are because today we're talking all about movies with Neri Rivas. Aim, tell us about Neri.
Okay, I finally got his title right. He is VP of Creative Advertising at Disney and 20th Century Studios.
Yes.
What does that mean? It means what's happening? Sorry. Wow.
Something else is playing at the same time. It's our first hiccup. It's fine.
I know. But basically, he's 1 degree of separation from Beyonce and Harrison Ford and Ryan Reynolds. That's what that means. And we're so excited to just be talking to him about how he got his start in the movies, how he got into design. He originally wanted to be a dentist. Yeah, you heard it here first. So it's just going to be really cool. And we interviewed him back in November, but we've just kind of held on to it and we're editing it down. So we're releasing it today and he's in the chat. So
yes,
if you're watching and you have questions, at him. He's at El Skeleto, at Neri Rivas, and definitely give him a follow on socials. He's at El Skeleto on Instagram. And yeah.
Oh, Patrick Weber's in the chat. What's up, Patrick? And so is Andrew Sale.
Hi.
Tommy Child.
Oh, a bunch of people, a bunch of friends.
All right, Anna Tom Zach. Is that how you say it, Anna?
Zach.
Hello. Hi.
Luana Cieza, people from all over. So
yes.
This is awesome.
This is going to be fun. And reminder, Neri is in the chat. That's how you can talk to him. So we're going to be playing the video that we pre-recorded, but he's in the chat. So ask him anything you want there while the video is playing.
And Neri, just a parting word from Neri in the chat, he said, "Hi, everybody," in Dr. Nick Rivera voice. So,
Simpsons.
Starting out with the Simpsons reference. So, without further ado, our interview with our good friend, great father, amazing designer, and creative director, Neri Rivas. So, okay, you grew up in LA, which, first of all, it's so rare that anyone is actually from LA. You're like 0.1% of anybody in LA. So, okay,
Yeah.
you always want to work in the movie industry? Like, you grew up creative, your uncle was creative, but was this like always the end goal, or did this just kind of happen?
Yeah, this sort of just happened. My Uncle Carlos, he has always been my like guiding light in my life, both when my parents got divorced or just like, he always took me in as one of his own. So I always felt like his kid more than I did like to my own parents. Not in a bad way. It's just that my mom was, after my parents divorced, my mom was a single mom. So she was out like, hustling, working 3 jobs, put food on the table for us. And he was like,
there with you all babysitting.
Mom. Yeah, well, he was babysitting, but he also was like very involved with us, with his kids, with my brother and I, and like always pushing like his nieces and nephews to do more. So creatively, yes, I was always doing creative stuff. I always, felt like I could do something in that career, but it was never like, oh, I'm going to be this when I grow up. I'm going to be an artist. Or I'm going to be a photographer. Or I'm going to do this or do that. I actually wanted to be a dentist.
Wait, what? Why? Please tell me the story behind this. Did you watch that one Rudolph the Reindeer special with the kid that wanted to be the dentist?
Claymation one from the 1960s?
I'm going to be a dentist.
Yes.
Dentist.
What was that guy's name?
I can't remember, but that was
the one with the abominable snowman.
Oh, that
right?
was so good.
Yeah,
that was
one of the better
ones.
ones.
Yeah. Saves Christmas and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Island of
no.
Boys.
But I think just because we were so like, watching daytime TV back in the day, I'd get home from school and watch I Love Lucy and Saved by the Bell. And I think there was always a commercial for like some dentist office. I can't remember. It was like, like American Career College or some shit, like be a technician or like something. And it just like wouldn't, like, you'd see it repetitive.
Wait, so you're saying that marketing and advertising works? What?
They look comfortable in scrubs. And now I'm sitting here in my local t-shirt and in sweats. So they're not wrong.
In your Big Lebowski house coat.
Yeah. That's like your opinion, man. So, I wanted to be a dentist, and that was like always like in my head where I was like, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna go to dental school. And then as I started getting older and I kept saying it, I was like, but that's like touching people's mouths and like,
you had never thought of the mechanics of how it happens.
it's started to hit. Like it started to fucking make sense. Like
I'm gonna be like digging around in people's like bad breath.
yeah, like, but you know, that's where it all like started, and that's when it started to shift for me because I did have art classes in high school. I did have photography classes as electives. Like I was still very involved in creating and doing art. I was in our school like art show. I enjoyed it very much, but it wasn't like I'm going to be this. I didn't know what a graphic designer was, honestly, until like 1998, you know? And I knew my uncle was a graphic designer, and I knew that like he did this type of work, but it was almost just like, you know, that episode of The Wonder Years where like Kevin asks his dad, like, Dad, what do you do? What do you do? And he's like, you know what I do? I work at Norcom. And he's like, yeah, what do you do? And he's like, leave me alone, Kevin.
He's like, I don't even know. Yeah. Oh my
He
god.
was like, stop asking me questions. I've been at work all day.
Right.
And so like, I knew what my uncle did, and I would see like what he would do, but I never really like thought that was something I could do. So yeah, I think when I was like 16, 17, it started to hit. Then I graduated high school. And once again, he had sent my cousin to art school, the Art Institute, and he was like, why don't you look into that? And I was like, yeah, I'm taking a break. I'm weighing my options as I go to community college and take Spanish guitar classes. And
Yes. Do you still know how to do it?
Oh yeah.
I don't know how to play that well Spanish. I mean, I know how to play like horrible covers and stuff, you know? Oh God.
Neri, you were an emo kid, right? Like you wore Jinkos. We talked about this. You were a Jinko wearing
I
kid.
didn't know no, I couldn't afford that stuff.
Okay, right. Sorry, off-brand Jinkos. Sorry. We talked
about that. I didn't get that. My
Yes.
mom was a single mom of 3.
Yeah. No, I remember. We talked about this, about how you could get like Airwalks that pay less, and it was like, that was passable. That was good.
Yes,
That was good.
I had those. Yep, I remember.
Yep.
Yeah, kids will roll up with like Jordans. You're like, yeah, I have a Tac Force 3000s.
Task Force.
My tongue.
Yep, totally.
Someone was talking the other day about strawberries. He was trying to make like cool shoes for like kids who couldn't afford Jordans, and apparently it just like totally
Tanked.
they're called Starberries.
Starberries.
But it was
yeah.
Daryl Strawberry's shoe. Anyways.
You gotta have like a better name, like a Tax Force 3000. That meant like, you know, you could be
You're not messing around. Yeah.
Threes, you know.
Oh yeah.
That's what was going on with me at that time.
Yes. Okay. So you grew up like creative, and then your uncle's like, listen, you should quit circling the drain at the community college and give art a try.
Yeah.
You can actually make a living.
Yeah, because I worked at Journey's Shoes, you know, and so I was like, I'm gonna run my own shoe store. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna become manager and make, you know, a killing selling etnies and DCs.
Isn't that
Right.
hilarious? When you're that age, you're like, dude, if I could just be the manager, I will be set for life.
Oh, I'd have Cinnabon every morning for breakfast. Go Taco
The
for lunch.
dream. Yeah. Oh my
And
god.
W would be chicken strips for dinner. Like, I'm 19. I got it made. No. So he was like, you know, he actually pushed me. He's like, all right, if you're not going to do art, like, what if you go into like IT work? So I took a couple of classes in community college for like for IT, and then I just didn't like it. I just was like, no. And then he was like, I went back and I you know, he gave me some counseling again, and he was like, well, Rob's down in art school. He's like, Paul, your cousin Paul's gonna go. Why don't you go? And I was like, cool. And he kind of ran through the pamphlet with me, and he was like, so he counseled me once again with direction in my life, and you know, he was like, why don't you look into this? You know, your cousin Rob's there, your cousin Paul's gonna go there. He's like, I think this would be really good for you. He's like, you've been drawing like all your life, and so I looked into it, and so I was like, whoa, they offer animation. And I was like, Pixar was super huge at the time, and I was like, I want to do what they do, you know. And so I was like, here I come, you know, animation, here I come. I'm going to work for Disney and be an animator, and or work for Pixar, because at the time they weren't owned by Disney yet. So I went in with my major in animation, And after my first quarter, I think I was like, this is not for me. I can't draw the same, because we had to start with 2D right before you jump into 3D.
Oh, so you're doing those like cell sheets. You're doing like cell sheets, like frame by frame by frame.
And anatomical drawing and like still life, and it's just color theory, all this stuff like that I didn't want. But I mean, it transitioned into graphic design. So finally, I think after that quarter, I was just like dying of like I can't do this. I can't draw. I can't draw. Like, this is a lot. Like I'm good at drawing, but like these guys that are in class with me are just
they're next level. Yeah.
Yeah, they're working for Pixar, not me.
And now you boss those kids around.
So I went and talked to whoever I talked to. I can't remember if I was like our school counselor or something. And I was like, I can't do animation. He was like, well, do you like design? And I was like, sure. And he like showed me some students' portfolios from prior years, and that was that. I was like, graphic design is it. This is what I'm meant for, and this is what I love. And from there, I just like never looked back. And even while in school, I didn't think about designing movie posters or designing anything. I mean, I always wanted to do it because that's what my uncle did. He did posters for like Mexican cinema. So it was cool. Like he did the montages of like the guy shooting the gun and like, the girl and, the explosion in the back, and like he did it very Struzen style, and he was known for that. But he would do for Spanish film, not for general market. So I always wanted to draw movie posters, and I would draw my own posters as a kid, but I never thought that was something that was achievable. So even when I was doing graphic design, I was like, I was doing more like packaging or like, conceptual designing. We had a pretty cool class where we watched that film, La Jetée, and then it's the 12 Monkeys is kind of like the remake of it with Brad Pitt and Bruce Willis.
Okay.
And so I remember like I watched Seven as an inspiration for like the class, and I saw that like Kevin Spacey's character, John Doe, had like these meticulous written out notebooks that were like aged and that were like neatly written in, but they were like methodically written out and thought of, and like, but they were old, and like it's almost like this guy had been writing for years. So I was like, you know what? For this class we had, I did the same thing. I went to like CVS, or maybe it was like Save-On. Remember Save-On?
Yes, I did. Yes.
So I bought those like Mead notebooks, right? And so like I grabbed a bunch of them. I like bought tea bags. I bought coffee, and like I just like, like cheap wine. And so like every book I like, I let them sit and like almost like get like eroded in the water, and then like I'd go and put them out, and then like I put books on top of them, get flat again, and then I would like start writing like a diary of what it's like to time travel, for this guy. Like I'm putting my head into this guy's like mind of like what it's like for him to travel and where he's going to and how it's wearing out his body and his mind. And so I had all these journals, and it was a graphic design class, and the thing was to design like a book in InDesign or what was it before InDesign?
Quark, right?
Quark. It was
Quark. Oh my gosh, you've aged yourself. We'll pretend like you didn't say that.
So I drew all these books, and I wrote in all these books, and it was like our final project, and it was supposed to be all in Quark and stuff. But I had about 4 books written with like thoughts and diaries, and people thought I actually was writing in a diary for myself,
Right. All the girls were like, "Gosh, he's so in touch with his feelings." Wow.
So emo.
I love him. That's amazing.
So I go and I turn in like these books of journals, but they all had like illustrations in them and like photo clippings, and just like they were like cool as fuck. And I remember I turned it in, and my teacher's like, "What is this?" And she's like, "Is this your printed books?" And I was like, "What do you mean printed books?" She's like, "Yeah, the project is you have to like, build this in Quark, have your
like, graphic design."
What are you I was like, "What?" But I was like, "Look at these." look at how dope these
Look
are.
at how
You know?
incredible
You're like,
they
no,
are.
I don't think you're seeing what I've done.
Yeah, I'm like, but look, Linda, listen.
Linda, let me tell you my vision here.
Yeah, you're not listening. Linda, listen. And so I was like, what? So for me, like, again, graphic design wasn't just like in on the computer at the time, especially when it was, blowing up. Macs were like the hot thing and stuff. It was like very like tangible, and I could see that like I wasn't doing what everyone else is doing, but the conceptual stuff was always there, like I always wanted to do something more. And even if I could design it in Quark, I wasn't like gonna just resort like fault to designing it in Quark. I wanted it to be something,
So those
So yeah.
conceptual ideas probably lent to you being where you are today. Like if you could give someone like the Cliff's Notes of how you kind of landed in 20th Century and then now have, obviously 20th Century got bought by Disney, so now you're at both companies. But what were like the skills or what was the process? How did you get noticed?
Yeah, like did you just cold email and just like, hey, I'm here, what's up? Or like did they like reach out to you and they were like trying to like woo you? Like how does it work?
Yeah, so after I graduated, I went into the fashion world and worked in the fashion district in downtown. And I worked for a small company, and it was horrible, but they taught me a lot of like production work, so I learned pre-production there.
And that
I
first
learned
job that's
a
like
lot more.
you hate it, but you learned those kinds of skills, it's invaluable. Like I think there's such
Yeah,
a case for having that first job that it's not glamorous by any means, but you really learn like the workhorse tools,
yeah, and it wasn't like I wasn't like miserable, but it wasn't. I could just tell it wasn't for me. Like you said, you learn invaluable skills where like I learned print production, I learned some design, I learned a few other things. And because it was in fashion, like a lot of things were like you had to just like sketch or design stuff before you can get and jump on a computer.
Right.
So from there, I quit because I just couldn't do it. It wasn't for me, and it was making me miserable. But I had kept connections with like people that I worked with, like in retail. And one woman's like husband worked at a print shop that's like a big agency now. But at the time, they were looking for an illustrator to go and compete for a Nike account, and they were competing against Mr. Cartoon for like basketball, like clinic with Nike, and it was like featuring Kobe and Amar Stoudemire and LeBron James actually. And so it was being held like in Chicago, Atlanta, and I think Los Angeles, or was it New York? I can't remember. I can't go back that far. But they, they brought me in to illustrate like Kobe, and of course I was like, yes, like I'll do
Dream
it.
job.
So,
Yeah, like dream
so
big.
reached out to her, like, or she told her husband. Her husband reached out to me, and then he was like, hey, like we're looking for an illustrator. Like come on in, we'll try you out. So I went in and showed them what I could do, like with my portfolio from school and stuff. And they're like, oh yeah, like I think this might work. And they're like, why don't we give it a shot? So we went with it, and we ended up winning the pitch and stuff. And so I had a whole campaign with Nike after like leaving that job.
So that was like only maybe a year out of school and you've already got a Nike campaign?
Yeah, like a year
That's
and a half.
incredible. That's
Yeah.
like
I didn't realize what it was really. I was like, I know that I did this for Nike, and Nike's huge, but not until I went to apply at this other advertising agency that my buddy was an in-house editor at. He's like, they're looking for an art director. I was like, what the hell's an art director? He's like,
I remember being so confused about the terms. I'm like, art director,
creative
principal,
director,
creative director.
yeah.
How do we know? How do we know this?
Yeah.
So I worked there. So I worked in advertising for about, like 5 or 6 years. Woman who was at HR there ended up working as a headhunter for Fox. And I remember she emailed like a bunch of us art directors that used to work at that old agency, like, hey, like, do you guys know anyone who wants to work in film, be an art director for film and in creative advertising? And I was like, yeah, like tell me about like I'll send the word out. Like, tell me like what this entails. And she just, like was like, it's like designing stuff and posters and movie marketing. And I was like, can I apply?
You're like, it's always that awkward thing of like, how do I say me? Is it rude to say me? I'm the person that you want.
Well, it's like,
I know you didn't ask
if
for
they're
me.
asking you for candidates, you always wonder, do they mean
Not
besides me?
Yeah.
Because they're asking me for others. Obviously, am I included?
Yeah,
That's
like
so
you're
funny.
asking me to help you find someone, but it's like that girl you want to date, and she's like, "Can you help me find a boyfriend?"
A Sabrina situation.
So, I just sent her my portfolio, and she sent it to the president of marketing there, and he asked me to come in, and I brought my book, and luckily at that time I had already had brands, like a lot of advertising within like the 5-6 years we had worked on. I had the Nike campaign. I had, we also at our agency had the NBA account for Noche Latina, which I designed that logo for, like their jerseys, and we did some commercials. Then we did Jack in the Box, which was huge for us.
I love those campaigns.
Then I got to my commercial for Jack in the Box. Yeah, and then I had, national Honda campaigns under my belt there too. So I had a lot of print work, but a lot of like video work too. That I could, say that I wrote with my copywriter. Like we wrote these commercials and these spots, So within like the 20 minutes of meeting him and stuff, he was just like, saw my portfolio and he was like, cool. And then he was like, check out this trailer that I'm working on. And I was like, okay. And, his name's Tony Sella. He's a genius, dude. He worked at, he's like, I created like the Little Mermaid, and not created like the stuff, but created the marketing for the Little Mermaid.
Right.
And like,
Yeah.
Gracie and all these movies that we grew up with, Home Alone and all that stuff. So,
Wow.
but I didn't know, I mean, I knew he worked in these movies, but I didn't know he was like
The guy. Right.
So I'm just sitting in his office and stuff. And so I was like, so there was no interview. It wasn't an interview. Just like, he's like, cool. And then he was like, cool. And he's like, check out this trailer. I was watching the trailer. And I was like, okay. He's like, yeah, dude, it's gonna be fucking awesome. And I was like, what's gonna be awesome? Like, he's like, yeah. He's like, we're fucking hired. Let's go. Let's get to work. And I was like, and so that's how my career started. But then, it took like 3 months for me to come in to Fox. And once I got there, I didn't know what to do. And,
How did you learn the ropes then? Like if you came in and you were like, okay, now I have this job. I've never worked in this industry. I have no idea what I'm doing. And they are also kind of like, this is new. This guy is a designer and he's also like ideating. So like, how did you learn the ropes? Did you just like watch what everyone else was doing or like?
Well, that's the thing is no one else was doing what I do there.
Yeah.
So I know now with the Disney merger, there are a couple of VPs who are designers. And I remember we had to do an ad for Rio for Best Musical. And so, we got the assignment. And so within like minutes, I didn't really, again, there was no ropes to learn. But I think people were like, oh, let's just grab a still from the movie, throw it on, like frame it, put best music, and I was like, oh, okay, like I guess, yeah. So I was like, okay. But within like starting that, I was like, okay, but what can I do, right? Not like what can I design, but what can I do? So I got an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, folded in half, looked at like printed out images and stuff from the film, from the characters and stuff. And then I drew Blue, the main character. And so I drew it where like the cover of the magazine, be like that. And then the gatefold would be his wing. And then when the wing opens, it would reveal like the whole cast. And then over here where his body's supposed to be, or like where his wing was covering him, was like Rio nominated for best music, and then listed the categories are like for your consideration. Right. And so it was like, so I was like, okay, like let me sketch this up, cut it out, literally 8.5 by 11 paper with like shitty sketch.
X-Acto knives, yeah.
Yeah, like, no, it was like scissors, and I just like made a quick die cut with scissors, and I ran down to my, Tony's office, and I walked in, and he was like, yeah, what the fuck, what's up? And I was like, that assignment we have for Rio where, we're supposed to design something for it? And he's like, yeah. I like handed him my piece of paper with like my like die cut wing, and I was like, and just like really quick rough sketch, you know, because it was like literally did it within minutes of getting this assignment. So I showed him. He's like, yeah, it's fucking genius. Go, like do it. So I ran back
He
upstairs.
understood what your teacher Linda could never see. Your genius. He saw the genius that was there.
He saw
Finally.
my div books, coffee stained pages, methodically written, like handwritten illustrations and notes.
You had found your home. Yes.
Yeah. So that's when I was like, oh, like I'm not only here to do like pretty design work. I'm here to like bring ideas and bring forth like, you know, ideation and concepts rather than just like, you know, color correct something. I don't know. Like,
and taking instructions from people who have no creativity, right? They're telling you what they need, but they're not giving you prescriptions. Like it's your job to make it cool.
So, you know, from that point on, I started seeing like, oh, okay, like when I get an assignment, it's not just make it look pretty or make it look cool. It's like bring it to life, you know, make it visceral, tangible, you know, have someone react to it. And so that's how that's pretty much like the genesis of like where I started seeing that like film marketing could be different than just you know, your regular movie poster. And you know, of course, like movie posters are great. I'm a huge fan of movie posters because I always had a love for film. I always had a love, and I don't want to sound like and say film like I watch foreign film. No, I watch
like you only watch Criterion Collection.
No, this is like watching Back to the Future, you know, Tango and
the classic, true American cinema.
Yes.
Oh, yes. The nitty gritty stuff. Yeah, like, you know, I probably watched Spanish TV because my parents spoke Spanish, but that's as foreign as they got in my house. I was never like, oh yes, like, have you seen this foreign film? No. Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh, yes.
Luke Perry.
Yes.
Heck yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so then it's interesting how pretty much like your connections in life, like your relationships from previous jobs, like that's what helped you land this gig that you might not have otherwise even maybe felt comfortable to go for, you know, or thought that was even in a wheelhouse you were interested in. And I mean, that speaks to the power of relationships and staying in touch with people and just being someone who's enjoyable to work with no matter what job you're at, right? Because that woman was from what job in the past?
It's from Journeys. That's incredible. It all goes back to Journeys.
It was from another retail gig. Yeah, it was from another. Yeah. So once I moved to LA, I moved back to Santa Monica, I should say. Moved to Santa Monica. And in Santa Monica, that's where I got hired while going full-time in school was it was called Structure. I think it's Express Men now. So I had to you know, dressed up with tie and like the latest chinos and, you know, the latest dress shirts and stuff. So
but it's like
true,
Ben
like Affleck Mallrats. That's what
oh my gosh.
Yes. Oh, that film is amazing.
That's when he still had the creepy baby teeth.
Like when I'm mad about Ben Affleck as Batman, I just think back to
the glory days,
the
Chasing
glory
Amy.
Days, Mallrats, Chasing Amy. Yeah, before he got his Michael Bay teeth.
Yeah.
Apparently Michael Bay made him get his baby teeth removed and like cut his gums up to look like normal sized teeth. Because if you look at Casey
for Armageddon,
yeah. If you look at Casey Affleck, he still has their baby teeth. You have to check it out. It's very fascinating. But anyways, no, but it speaks to the power of like doing right by the relationships you have, even if you don't know what you're going to get out of it. You know, I think a lot of people are like, who can I meet in LA or who can I meet in my city or whatever to get to the job I want? But you can't really think about it that way because you never know where that connection's going to happen, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, it wasn't like I was in, you know, I reached out to someone who was a powerhouse in, you know, Beverly Hills, who had like mansions and Ferrari. There was like this dude who was the head of their print production who obviously knew what projects were coming ahead because he has to schedule his, you know, print presses and all that stuff. So he was like, let me talk to the creative directors here about this project and show them your portfolio. Like you just passed the word along. It wasn't, again, like I reached out to someone.
Which is great. Because I think that gives people hope that like you don't have to know the people at the top to get your dream jobs. Like you just have to, you know, have that one little seed of opportunity from you don't even know where it's going to come from. Okay, so fast forward then to you've been in this job for a while. You're starting to contract and stuff. I know a lot of people watching this right now are probably thinking, how do I get on their radar? How do they pick their collaborators, right? I'm sure like people ask you all the time. So what's your criteria? Like, are you looking for experience over work? Like, is there one more than the other? Where do you hunt for, you know, these talents? Like, how do you find it?
Yeah. So once I understood what I was doing, and then again the collaboration and like the work that comes with it, you know, I was a fan of Jon Contino's, and I know I probably speak of him in other. I've spoken of him in other podcasts, and I to this day like we text and stuff. But I was a huge fan of his. Like his like art was like my wallpaper on my MacBook. You know,
Totally.
like when I was doing advertising, I was like, who draws like this? How like
Yeah.
you know, how did he create this style? And it was always like in my head, you know, while I was like working on like brands like Nestle and like like doing nothing creative, but like learning a lot of strategic research, which then came into play later in my life. Again, these things like, you know, even
Everything
if you
comes
feel like
back.
yeah, like take note, you know, take note of like what's going on and learn, even if it's not something you're like, you know, like I only do creative stuff. I don't need to learn strategic research or like, no, you do because when you go and start like, you know, working in the corporate world, like it's not just one branch. It's not like, oh, creative dictates everything, you know, like, yes, it holds a lot of weight, but there's also other team players you have to know how to play with and understand what they do is important and vital to what you do.
Right.
To reach demographics or whatever. So I, you know, once I like got another project handed to me, I had already ideated a bunch of stuff. It was for the Book of Life. This was probably like, I had worked on Ice Age, which one was a Continental Drift or something. And I, it wasn't like that one was really like a big thing for me, but it allowed me to lead a project and manage a project, which I think showed like, okay, like we can start giving this guy responsibility, which then turned into the Book of Life, right? I was given that project. And I was like, man, like reading the script, knowing that I'm part of that culture, knowing that this reminds me of my family, where did I come from, you know, what would, you know, they were talking about like handmade stuff. And I was like, well, I have a bunch of ideas, and I had a sketchbook that I was sketching skulls and, you know, Sacred Hearts and all this crap. And I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to reach out to Jon Contino. And so at the time, I went on his site, you know, contact me or whatever it was, hit that email, and I was like, hi, I'm a huge fan, you know, I have a crazy project that I think you'd be really great for. The whole like fanboy of like meeting someone that you look up to, you know. And so he replied back and he was like, yeah, man, like this sounds fucking awesome. And I was like, oh my God, he's fucking in like an email. And, you know, if you know Jon,
yes, amazing. He's amazing.
So, yeah, so you guys know. And so
he's every bit the bristly New Yorker that you want. You know what I mean? Like he's
yeah. Lives and breathes. You can tell like he is New York, you know.
Oh, absolutely.
So it was you know, East Coast, West Coast came together to bring you some real gangster hip hop, and you know,
amazing.
You know, we collaborated on this thing, and you know, it became one of those projects where not only could I manage the commercial look of the film, but then also when we did like our special stuff, like limited edition posters and our font, which he let me name El Skeleto. Thank you, Jon, for giving me that. And so it came to show that like, one, I knew typography. Two, art direction. I could illustrate and like conceptualize ideas, and you know, working with Jon helped elevate that. You know, so I owe him a lot. And I know he even sent back ideas on his own, which I had asked for, and not just like, hey, here's my stuff, do it. I was like, here's my sketches. What do you have to offer? You know?
Like
and
interpret it. Yeah.
Yeah, like come back with your own. I sent him the script. He read it. Then he had his own ideas, and you know, they all just started like, it was like we were on the same wavelength, and that's when it really hit. But like, oh, like we can now give him another film or do more projects and stuff. And so that like, you know, it was all stepping stones. You know, it wasn't just like I hit the ground running and went to the top. Like went to the top of the charts. No, it was literally, you know, one project at a time,
Earning that trust, yeah.
Yeah, like, then we have another film called Epic. There was just like always like that wasn't my project, but I got to be a part of it by just like offering ideas or like, hey, what if the logo looked like this? And, in the in the P we hide a little soldier, a leaf guy, and it's shaped like his leaf shield shapes the
The counter.
Sure.
I got you, Neri.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, the counter. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Crossbar. Is that wrong? No, that's wrong. Where's my anatomy of typography poster?
I know, right?
Yeah. So, it's just contributed ideas too. It wasn't like, oh, I know everything. It was just like, how about this? And they're like, yeah. And then they gave it to this one illustrator who's a legend named Johnny Kwan, who did like the design of the Little Mermaid poster and Dick Tracy. And so he took it and illustrated my sketch to make it more like to fit in the counter. And then somebody else rendered it in 3D, and then you see your logo go from like a flat sketch to a full like clean sketch to then a render, and you're like, wow, this is amazing. So there's no, again, there's no one job that you will take and do that's going to be like, oh, this job was the best job. It's like you're going to learn from everything,
Yeah.
And so the collaboration and stuff, that's where it started with John. How do you get into this, and how do you like, you said listeners are probably like, oh, let me get in touch with them. Now with Disney, it's a different thing. It's a very top secret machine that they're very, very secure with who they work with and how they work with and what you have to offer that they'll allow in. With Fox, it was like, who wants to work? Who wants to do this? Let's go.
I love that. And I think, how The Simpsons, how Fox used to let The Simpsons like shit talk Fox.
They
on
would
their
totally
show.
rip on Fox all the time.
I think that was like the coolest thing that I'd ever seen when I was 10 watching The Simpsons. I'm like, the network doesn't care.
Yeah.
But I think that totally illustrates how cool like Fox Network like was.
And I think that's what ultimately like led to a lot of their success. Like our marketing, I think our marketing team has pushed the bar and pushed the, raised the bar and pushed the envelope on marketing. And now, we're continuing to do that with the merger. We are. I mean, obviously we haven't put out a lot of marketing because we're in COVID and we haven't films and stuff.
But to your point, I think one of the best examples of how like just out of the box you all were at Fox was Deadpool, right? That's probably the best case in point for it. Just all the different stunts that and they were almost like stunts. You were just like, this can't be real when you would see these like commercials for like the Valentine's Day thing or whatever. You're just like, what's happening?
Yeah. And that was one of the great things that I think helped push that film and push the envelope, because we were so, we had X-Men for 20 years. We started getting the Avengers and, we didn't want it to be, again, the same thing that everyone was doing or the same thing you're seeing. And luckily, that video leaked, that trailer, that like, conceptual trailer leaked of Ryan, like, as Deadpool and where he drops from the freeway. And I mean, that just like was the precipice of getting that movie made, like
That's
it really
interesting. So was there a lot of pushback then? Was there a lot of pushback when you guys were like presenting your ideas and what you wanted to do, and were they like nervous? And who leaked it? Who did it? Who?
Yeah, so tune in, kids. Next time, my battery's low. Hold on, I get my battery.
Okay, cool. I'm smiling so much in my mascara. I look like a crying beauty queen. Like, I won.
Beauty school dropout.
Beauty school dropout. Neri, you don't have this problem, but when you wear mascara and you're having a really good time and you're doing this the whole time, your mascara goes all under.
I'm not wearing mascara. I have sunglasses on.
Lucky for you.
Yeah. So
gorgeous. Straight up gorgeous.
Let me just blot real quick.
Yeah. That guy liner. Again, emo.
I just want to point out Billy Zane's built-in guy liner and how much I appreciate it. And I think about it often. He's not a big star, but I think about it a lot, actually.
Yeah, no. Did he build it?
I think it's
I
just
mean,
DNA. I think it's
don't really
genetic guyliner. Yeah.
because he had it in Tombstone.
I know, right? Like, it did not
Yeah,
fit.
he
It
was like a
wasn't part of
theater
the
actor.
role. Yeah.
Like maybe Twin Peaks, but Tombstone, it just.
Was he in Twin Peaks?
He was. He was in
show.
Twin Peaks. Look it up. Look it.
always-
I bet you all a Szechuan chicken dinner once COVID's over. I bet
What
you.
did Billy Zane play in Twin Peaks?
He's in Twin Peaks. He has hair. First of all, he has hair. That's why you forgot. He has hair. And he plays like a guy that comes in. He's a pilot, and he falls in love with the what's the girl's name whose dad owns the hotel? It's not Abby. It's Audrey.
Audrey.
Yeah, Audrey Horn. But she's younger, and it's kind
so
of
it's like
a little bit
season 2
pervy.
then.
Yeah, it's
Season
like
2.
season 2. Y'all owe me a chicken dinner.
With
Okay,
pleasure.
wait. I have to circle back because I need distinct answers for the viewers who are curious at home. What were you looking for, and how did you find people?
Yeah, it was depending on like what they could do, what their talents were, what their style was. So again, I was a huge fan of Dave Raposa. Yeah, Dave Raposa is an amazing illustrator. He with the launch of Deadpool, I think it was the first time we were going to work together. And again, I had created a concept of how to market the film because we were getting the note that it was an R-rated film. We were starting to, studio-wise, they were nervous because, of course, the Avengers and like all those X-Men movies have had such great success in the box office, and so then to push an R-rated film during this time, where the Captain Americas and the Iron Mans and all these movies have been like, a staple in going to the movies. Like, how do we differ ourselves from that? So I remember I created a bunch of sketches. I reached out to Dave, same thing. I'm a big fan of yours. I have a project called Deadpool. There's like no secret code name or anything. It was like, hey, and so he like, same thing. Like, hell yeah, I'm down. Like,
So pretty much it's been relationships or people that you've looked up
Yeah.
to.
yeah. And, again, what their work looks like, and how it fits into what you're working on, because, I've gotten plenty of requests of people like, yeah, check out my portfolio. I'd love to work with you sometime. You go and check it out, and you're like, oh, I could never use that not because your work isn't good. It's just like, it's not going to fall into like what we do. It's not just always graphic design, that's what I was talking about earlier with like, what art direction. It's like, push the envelope on photography, art direction, marketing, whatever it is, your skills can go further than just the computer screen and Photoshop,
Right.
So we even, again, we were working on a movie called, you guys worked on it. It was Bad Times at El Royale.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Oh, that was so fun.
Your guys' typography and like that old school, like, California, Vegas thing, when I saw and I read the script, I was like, they would be good. And I think that's how our friendship started, right?
I
Like,
think it is. I think.
Yeah.
And I think he reached out, and I always find this fascinating on Instagram. It was DMs to the company profile, which I love because it shows that like literally these job opportunities, like you do social for so long, you wonder if there's any point to it. And then that happens and you're like, it was all worth it,
10 years on
Yeah.
Instagram. Pay it off.
but I don't even know how to find your work. I can't even recall it. But it was like, you guys are, so ubiquitous in my life now, where like everywhere I look, it's, Hoodzpah and Jen and Amy, and you guys like, even though we didn't get typography done for it, still keeping that relationship with you guys, I was like,
Yeah.
I was like, I know some typography artist who would be good for Pixar, and I passed your names on to Jess, and like,
So
the
kind.
homegirl, and like, that's
that
what
was
it
a
is. Like,
dream. P.S. Thank you so much. I
Yeah.
know we've said it before, but
I know.
it was so cool working with that company. And their team at Pixar and Disney is amazing. They're really cool too.
oh, they're amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is relationships and just, again, like being a good person,
Yeah. Yeah.
Totally.
Okay. This is a rapid fire portion. Then we're going to let you go. Favorite movie ever?
The Matrix.
The Matrix. Fascinating.
That's good.
Okay.
That movie blew my mind. I was 18.
dude.
I'm sorry we had 10 seconds, but I
No,
was
no, but
18
it's
years old.
true.
But there are
It blew
movies,
my
I
mind.
was talking to someone the other day, there are movies that we saw when we were 16. We'll never feel that way about anything in our life because you only get that level of surprise and delight like
Yeah.
1, 2, 3 times in a movie. Like for me, it was The
Yeah.
Sixth Sense where I was
Oh my
like,
gosh.
this can happen
The
in
twist, you're
movies?
like, what?
Yeah.
Yes, but
Yeah.
it's like once you've seen that, every time you see it coming where it's like, oh, everyone's dead. Like
Yeah.
you can never be tricked that way again. So it's like you have to hold
Yeah.
on to those moments. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Next
yeah.
rapid fire question. You worked at Journeys. What was the coolest thing you ever bought at Journeys? Like, what was your piece? Like, what were you known for? Doc Martens. Like, what was your thing?
Doc Martens probably, like first pair of Doc boots. And I remember wearing them in high school when I could finally afford to like not have Attack Force 3000, had that Journeys mad discount, and I bought my
Yes.
first pair of Docs, and I remember wearing them to school, and they were like funky. They weren't like
Standard black.
they didn't look like regular Docs, but I remember being people like kids, people, what are those? And they were like, oh yeah, these are Docs. Where'd you get those? I'm like, oh, I work at Journeys. I'm like, what?
Yeah, immediate cool factor. It's like, can I get
Yeah.
your number?
The funny thing about Doc Martens though is hour 3 of wearing them and realizing that they do not feel good on your feet. It's like they take about 2 years to break in.
That's part
Yeah.
of it though. That's part of the brand is like, can you handle it? Can you handle going
Can you
5
handle
hours?
what's supposed to be posture-feeding?
They're tough,
Like,
like you, and you're like, no, I'm not
I
tough.
can't handle it.
I need Dr.
Yeah.
Scholl's to weigh in on Doc Martens and help me out.
Yeah, we need a collab for sure, for sure. That's so funny.
Here.
But honestly, this makes so much sense because you are one of the best dressed people I know. I remember when we first hung out, we got Szechuan chicken in LA, and you were wearing like black trousers with like smoking loafers, smoking like
Yeah.
sweet black velvet smoking loafers because I know what they were because I've been looking for them for like a decade. I want smoking loafers and like a crisp white shirt and maybe suspenders. Is that right?
No, suspenders. No, I can't.
Okay, but
Yeah,
the look
so
was
a
like
white t-shirt tucked
dialed.
in to-
Yeah.
I'm sure other people have tattoos, but like at Disney, it's funny when I walk on the lot. I'm like covered full sleeves and like knuckle tattoos, and I've been stopped a few times. Like, sir, where are you going?
Excuse
I'm like,
me.
yeah, I'm like, go to my office. What do you think? I'm like,
You're like office with a view, corner office. Yeah, that's me. VP baby.
no.
Here,
They're
park
like,
my Tesla. Just throw change at him a few dollars.
Go park my car.
Okay, this is my last rapid fire question. What's the most Hollywood LA problem you've had at work? Like the most Hollywood thing that's come up where you're like, I can't believe this is my life right now and I have to solve this problem.
Just like crazy experiences. I would say Harrison Ford, working on Call of the Wild, and he would come to our office, and I'd have to present to him and show him like his posters, and then
Oh, because was he like a producer on it? I didn't realize.
I believe he was on it, but I think he had like what's it called, like creative consultation.
Mm.
So he came in, and like he's in great shape, still has all his hair.
Did he fly his helicopter in?
No, it's a
I
plane.
think he drove a Tesla, and he drives a biplane or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a biplane.
That's like a power move.
Yeah, for sure. That'd be funny if you just like pulled into the lot like on a biplane.
Yeah, totally.
I'm here.
He puts down a rope ladder and just like climbs out.
Like whips the front door open.
Like I actually do think he is Indiana Jones. Like they're not two people to me. They are the same person.
No. So anyways, Harrison Ford came in, and just meeting him, it's Han Solo, it's Indiana Jones.
Guy from Blade Runner.
Yeah.
I don't know that character's name. Some
Sure,
movies
his name-
you will never remember their names though.
Yeah,
Some movies are like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
So that was like, again, I'm starstruck all the time. I don't care like how many celebrities I see. Like I love movies and I love this world. And so seeing him come up, and I remember it was Halloween, and we didn't know he was going to come on Halloween until later in the day. And so one of our coworkers, she dressed up as Indiana Jones. So she had a hat, the whip, and the dog doesn't like the story. Now, so he comes up, and we have like the boards printed, full size and mounted for him to look at. And this is pretty much at the end of it because it's Halloween. So I think the movie was coming out in December or something like that. So it was like the final presentation. He comes in and he sees my coworker, and this genius, he just stared at her. Like he walked up and she's standing, and then he just stared at her and just like had this stare down. And I was like, it was like a long pause and nothing was happening. And I was like, well, this is awkward. And he just like grabbed a piece of like chocolate, unwrapped it, put it in his mouth. He's like, looks good on you. And he like, and she was like, jaw
Life
dropped.
made.
Dude, she was like, what?
She has her story. That story you tell at cocktail parties. She has it now.
So that's it. That was our interview with Neri Rivas. Thanks so much to Neri, who hung out with us back in November to record this, and who is in the chat live today, answering all your questions. And thank you all. If you like this video, definitely like and subscribe. We post monthly, sometimes even weekly. Today's video was brought to you by Freelance and Business and Stuff, the course. If you're a freelancer or a studio looking to up your rates and land dream projects, then this is the course for you. Check out a free preview lesson on our site.